Paul, you got your mic on?
I do. Don't I sound great to you?
Get closer to the microphone.
Check one, check two, check one, check
Nope.
two.
I think you're on your regular computer mic.
Son of a gun. Stand by. Audio. MacBook microphone. How about that? Check one, check two. Here's me. Checking. Is that better?
A little bit better. Just you go up on your volume, and you should be in good shape.
How about this?
See. I know the difference.
You fixing it? You doing it?
No, you did it.
All right.
I heard. See, you sound so much clearer now.
Well, I'm glad you figured that out.
It's what I do, Paul.
Yeah,
this is what I do.
Zoom just automatically grabs the microphone when I plug it in. So.
Yeah.
Is there anybody there?
All right. Well, hey, thank you everybody for joining another Dad Hat Chronicles podcast. My name is Ed Rivera, also known as the Dad Hat. With me today, this is going to be an interesting one, right? Because I got a co-host, and I'm pretty excited for this one. And this will be the official one, technically.
Yeah.
So, Val, Stadium Food Girl is my co-host. I mean, I'm so excited for this. I just want you to know. I'm not excited about our guest, so don't worry about our guest. Who cares about that person? But I'm very excited to have you as a co-host. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. So excited for this opportunity. I mean, I love the show. I tune in on Tuesdays. And so this is perfect.
This is awesome. I'm excited for this. So I guess we have to talk about our guest. And our guest is none other than my good friend, fellow Curvebrand Media. Well, actually, we both, we started the Curvebrand Media. The ginger visual, Mr. Paul Caputo himself. How you doing, my friend?
I am so excited to be part of the debut of the co-host era of the Dad Hat Chronicles, because I've always said the only thing that can make the Dad Hat Chronicles better is less Ed. So 50% less Ed makes the Dad Hat Chronicles 100% better.
With friends like Paul, who needs enemies? So there we go. This is
to
how
think
we're
I've
getting
stayed
started.
in your home. I've stayed in your home on a baseball weekend, and here I am firing shots right out the gate.
You chose violence again, just like Eric
listen,
Prophet.
On a recent episode of the Dad Hat Chronicles, I feel like my name was dragged through the mud as an opponent of the Wave. So I needed to come out with my back up, and I'm glad that I had Eric Prophet to defend the honor of people who dislike the Wave.
Okay, so before we get into what we're actually here for, so let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and get into this one. Why do you hate the Wave?
By the way, the Wave happened in earnest in London, so I can talk about that a little bit. But my feeling is, if you want to play kindergarten games with people who are not watching baseball, just go to the playground.
Go ahead. You see what I'm saying, Val? You see that? You see that?
Ouch! I love the Waves.
I love the Wave. I'm a massive fan of the Wave. I think the Wave is great.
Yeah, well, you can go play patty cakes and hopscotch, and there's all sorts of games you can play while you're not watching baseball.
And then you have Paul and Eric, who are the get off my lawn people.
Exactly.
That's probably true.
So, all right, go ahead.
The ballpark in London, the stadium, London Stadium, was built in 2012 for the Olympics. It's now the home of the West Ham football club over there. And the seating goes all the way around. And so it's perfect for the Wave, right? It was, 55,000 people. It was actually 53,000 the first night and 56,000 the second night. And they were both sellouts. I don't know how that works. But it was kind of perfect for the Wave, right? It was round. It was filled to the brim. And there was no having to break when the Wave reaches the left field concourse and then trying to time it, and then it starts back up.
Or center field
The
ground.
empty spots.
Right, exactly. And the other thing that they did really well during the game over there, while they were doing the Wave, while they were not watching baseball, was the upper deck and the lower deck both did a really good job of staying in sync. They actually, it's because sometimes it separates, and there's two separate waves going on. So say what you will about the wave. They did it right over there in England.
Well, I mean, listen, I already told you I'm a fan of the wave, and then of course, when it comes to soccer, they're always chanting, they're always doing some kind of activity while the match is going on, and yet they still are able to pay attention. So I don't know why people think that doing the wave it's gonna take away from the experience, on the field. Paul.
Well, because when the wave is going on, everyone's watching it and waiting for it to get there, and it's almost our turn, and here it comes, and woo!
It's exciting.
Oh, strike 3 of the inning just ended.
I'm just saying, Val.
Oh,
it's
the 8th inning of a no-hitter, and it was just broken up while the wave was going on.
One day when I'm at the next Curve Brand Media event, I'm going to start the wave, and I expect everyone to go right behind me. I'm going to be
Paul will do it. He will do it.
One time I was at a St. Louis Cardinals game, and Michael Wacha was 8 1/3 innings into a no-hitter. And no joke, people in center field started the wave while he was pitching. They were doing the wave in the 8th inning.
Okay, so
of a no-hitter.
Okay, so that's a little different, though.
Yeah,
that's different. I'll give you that, right? Like, I mean, if we're going to be experiencing a no-hitter or a no whatever, then I get that. That's
right.
We're good. I was like, all right, let's just hold off on the wave to wait until in between innings or something like that. Right. But being against the wave overall, bro,
here's where I think the wave is okay. And I think this will give you some insight as to why I don't like the wave. I think the wave is okay if you are at a home game for a bad team that is losing badly. Suppose you're at a Rockies game and the Rockies are losing 11-2,
like the
fireworks, which is often the case, and it's fireworks night, and so there's a big crowd, and they doing the wave is their way of saying, "F you, we're going to entertain ourselves because you're bad and not fun to watch." We're just going to entertain ourselves over here because this baseball game is too bad to watch.
That's tough to hear because I also agree with
that. I'm with you. Like, I agree with some of these things, but I will equate this to your wave to my. I'm going to keep the baseball because these kids have a better opportunity to get a baseball, and I'm a grown man that just has a chance. The only chance will be catching a foul ball. That's it, or a home run.
Val, what's your opinion on this? You get a foul ball, give it to a kid, hang on to it, put it in your pocket.
I'm still a kid, so I'm going to keep it.
Oh, boom sauce.
Very good.
This is why she's a great co-host.
It's true. You guys are great together.
I'm a 30-year-old teenager, so.
Perfect.
42-year-old teenager, so I'm never going to grow up.
I had to put my money where my mouth was, by the way. I caught a foul ball at a Rockies game, the last Rockies game of the season last year, and a ball hit a seat in the section over and ricocheted towards me, and I reached back with my left hand and grabbed it on the roll and found a kid and gave it to him. I was like, here you go. It's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have done. I would have put it right in my pocket if I was wearing cargo shorts. I'm just letting you know. So
I don't think I own cargo shorts.
I don't own Oh, I know. I own one pair. I have one left. I'm just holding on for dear life, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And my wife uses it for everything. It's like, here, put this in your pocket, kind of deal. So it works. All right.
Here we go.
So, Paul,
Ed,
we already know you went to London. I'm not jealous at all or anything like that. To the London game, right? You went to go see your beloved Phillies. I want to know, man. Tell me your experience. Let's start talking about this because this is like a once in a lifetime kind of deal. Like, talk to me, man.
So far as I know, it was the first time my Phillies have been involved in something like this. And the big debate in my head was, if I'm going to go to London, should I go when there's baseball happening? Because I see baseball all the time. Or, should I go to London so that I can go to Buckingham Palace and Big Ben and Parliament and Covent Gardens and all that stuff, right? Like, should I go and just do like the touristy Tower of London, et cetera, because I can see baseball anytime. So the debate in my head was, is it worth investing in this? Is it going to be different enough from seeing a baseball game anywhere else? And I have to tell you, I am so glad that we chose to do this, because it was such an incredible experience. It was the atmosphere. I don't want to say it was like the best atmosphere I've ever experienced, because that, I've been to a Phillies World Series win, right? Like that was the best atmosphere I've ever experienced. I've seen more important games. This might be the biggest crowd I've been a part of since Veterans Stadium closed. This I can't remember being part of a 56,000 person crowd, right?
I was just going to ask you, what was the crowd size?
It was pretty big. So the stadium was it was built in 2020. Sorry, the stadium was built in 2012. It was built for the Olympics, and it's a multi-purpose stadium. It's used by West Ham Football Club now. As a stadium goes, it actually wasn't like glitzy best stadium I've ever been in, right? Like it was a pretty sort of ordinary stadium. Our tickets were pretty high up there. We were in row 64 of the upper deck, and that was 64 rows worth of stairs right there. That was a lot of climbing.
So
like,
how was your nosebleeds a lot?
Our legs were pretty sore. But I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit. The experience really began. I actually flew through Philadelphia from Denver through Philadelphia. Stayed there for a couple of days because my mother turned 80 years old, and that was fun. We got to celebrate her birthday on the way to London. So then we flew over there. Plane is just completely full, jack full of Phillies fans. I ended up in, Amy and I were second to last row on the plane, kind of like we were at the ball game too. I'm sensing a theme here, and of course, sitting next to me on the plane. Exactly, cheap seats on the plane too. Sitting next to us, and we had the 3 seats in the middle, with the aisle on either side of us. And of course, next to us was a Phillies fan, young woman who was flying over there with a friend to see one of the games. And so, like, the plane is full of Phillies fans. Like, if we had started chanting on the plane, "Let's go Phillies," I'm sure there would have been like a ton of people who would have joined in. Landed at 10 a.m. on Saturday of the game. And so our job then was to basically stay awake because of the jet lag. We had flown overnight, hadn't gotten much sleep. And so our job was basically like stay awake until the ball game. And it ended up actually not being a problem. We walked around London. We went and saw St. Paul's Cathedral, which was kind of cool. We took pictures in the red telephone booths, which was, of course, you're a tourist and you have to do that.
You have to, yeah.
And the subway was great. The airport, the stadium, our hotel, and Trafalgar Square were all on the Elizabeth line of the tube over there, the underground. And that made life really easy. But we discovered that on the first day, we were just walking around London, and we just sort of happened across, it's funny, you're walking around and you see, I have to say it was 80% Phillies fans, right? Like it
really?
was, it felt like a Phillies home game. Yeah. The Mets fans were way outnumbered. Walking around London, you're seeing all these Phillies fans, and just like as you pass, you're just like, go Phils, go Phils, go Phils. And then like, as we're walking towards Trafalgar Square, there's like more and more Phillies fans to the point where like you can't say go Phils anymore. It's like that's all you'd be saying is go Phils.
You go down.
And we realized,
horse, I mean.
Yeah. So we realized that Trafalgar Square was hosting this event called, it was called the MLB Takeover. And they had like little batting cages, and they had, like things like backdrops where you could take your photo. At one point they had a couple of players there. The Fanatic was there at one point, and it was just like a whole like sort of MLB fan fest. And this was a 20-minute tube ride from the stadium, right? So it was just like in the center of London. And then if you didn't have tickets, they had a watch party there.
Nice.
Which was notable because when we landed, this woman sees us all Philliesed up, like we flew in Phillies gear. This woman sees us all Philliesed up, and she's like, "Are you going to the game tonight?" We're like, "Yeah, how could you tell?" And so she's like, "Well, I'm trying to get tickets and I can't get tickets." She's like, "How did you get tickets?" I was like, "I bought them 3 months ago when they first went on sale."
Wow.
So she flew to London. I hope she got tickets. I didn't see anyone.
Well, she had an opportunity to go to one or two games, right? Because
Sure.
there was a 2-game series.
It was 2-game series. And in true European fashion, it finished in a tie, 1-1. But it was funny because
he loves these ties. Loves soccer so much.
At Trafalgar Square, they had like a concession or a merchandise stand. And I went up there and they had stuff that just said like London Series and it had the Phillies Mets and the Mets logos on it. Had stuff that was just generic London Series, had stuff that was London Series with only Mets, and then that was it. And I was just like, where's the London Series stuff with only Phillies? And they were like, oh, that sold out in like an hour.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not going to do accents because I'm not good at them. And, it's more harm than good can come from trying to do an accent. So I won't do an accent. But the guy working the merch stand said that Phillies fans travel in numbers, which I thought was like a great expression, a great like British expression. And what it meant was we had descended on the place and bought up all the Philly stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that is so cool.
It was very cool. And it was like very, very like Phillies centric. And like even like seeing like the historic sites in town was all like crawling with Phillies people. So that was sort of going over. So I haven't gotten to the game yet. And I could just, listen, you guys, if you want to go make a sandwich or something, I could just talk for like 20 minutes. So I can wait for you to, ask some questions and whatnot. But that was sort of like getting over there, getting situated, sort of seeing London all MLB'd up was really interesting. And then the other interesting thing about like that, like the Fan Fest, the Trafalgar Square takeover, was the number of people with British accents. And it wasn't all American baseball fans, right? Like it was, I think that, the British, this caught the imagination of some British people, right? Like it was something that I think it's having the intended effect of attracting fans in London.
Mm-hmm. And really getting MLB's or, achieving the goal of really growing the game, because it's like fans who don't see MLB baseball and probably aren't staying up for that time because of the time difference. And of course, we're not going to miss out on that opportunity. Just like when NFL goes over there, I'm sure, when I see the stadium filled, it's not everyone's from the, flew from the US, which I think is so cool.
It was very cool. And it was in the second game, and I'm doing all of this out of order, so I hope that's all right. But
Thanks. Now I'll just do the editing. Don't worry about it.
It's thematic anyway. It's thematic to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
In the second game, we walked up, we got our walking sticks out and got our water bottles and hiked up to row 64 there. And
did you grab an inhaler?
Exactly. Had our oxygen. That's like, we came from Colorado, but we still need oxygen in London to get to our seats. So we get to our seats and there's a family next to us. And it's, the dad is all Metsed up. There's the older son looks like he's maybe like 13 or 14. There was a mom who was wearing red, but it wasn't specifically Phillies. It was just red. And then there was a younger son who turned out to be 11-year-old Tyler, who was all Phillies up. He was like head to toe Phillies.
And you befriended this person, right?
Well, so when we sat down, Amy was on the aisle. I was one seat in, and then I was next to the mom. And I was like, oh, you guys are a divided family. How'd that happen? And they were like, they were head to toe in gear, right? Like, so I'm expecting an American accent. Sure enough, she answers in a British accent. She's like, oh, we decided who we were going to root for when we got here. So they were British people, had never seen baseball before, and were just there because it was an event. And, I was like, well, that's cool. I was like, this is my favorite sport. And, I grew up watching this, and this was part of my family, and it's part of my friends now. And everything I do kind of has some attachment to baseball. And so the 11-year-old Tyler like leans forward and asks me some question. I don't remember. I remember some of his questions because they were hilarious, but like he leans forward and his mom's like, oh, Tyler, she's like, let him watch the game. And I was like, oh, no, you don't understand. Like this, I'm thrilled by the idea of, of this kid like wanting to learn about baseball and me being his resource for that. Right. So
Paul is like, I was made for this.
This is my moment right here.
Yeah.
So Tyler and his mom actually ended up switching seats so that he could sit next to me. And he just like everything was a question. And it was punctuated by like every 30 seconds, he would just randomly in his hilarious British accent. And it was hilarious. He added like 3 extra syllables to this phrase. He would yell, "Let's go Phillies" at the top of his lungs. But like I said, like there were like extra syllables all sort of throughout. There are a couple of diphthongs in there. And, so at one point, though, he says to me, he says, how do they get a try? And I was like, I don't know what that, I thought, like, does that mean,
He's
like
busting out
when
some cricket for you.
I maybe, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh, does that mean, like, is that what it happens when you come up to bat? Like, is that what you're talking about, like an attempt? And so I looked at his mom. I was like, I sort of shrugged. I was like, I don't actually know what that question means. And she goes, Tyler, a try is, they call them points. And she's like, apparently a try is a point in rugby.
Wow.
And
Rugby and cricket.
is it cricket as well? And so I was just like, oh, well, and in this sport, in baseball, we call them runs. And so then he's like, well, how many, how do you get a run? And I was just like, well, you see those white things out there, those are called bases, and you have to go from first to second to third to fourth, or to fourth to home. And and I said, here's how you get to the bases, and here's when they make you go sit back down if you make an out. And so he clearly processes it, and he was like cheering at all the right times. And then he turns and he asks me, because to score a run, you go first to second to third to home. He asks me, he goes, well, how many times can you go round? And I was like, what a hilarious and awesome question, right? Like, can't you just keep running around the bases and scoring more and more runs? So there was just a certain amount of that, right? Like, there were a lot of people wearing what were clearly like expensive, authentic Major League Baseball gear, who had never seen a baseball game or couldn't care less about Mets versus Phillies. They probably just chose them on like color or whatever. So there was a lot of that, and that was a very cool aspect of this, was that it wasn't just a bunch of American baseball fans in London.
Let me ask you, because that's something that I wanted to ask you, because obviously this is for Major League Baseball, early stages of globalizing the sport in a way in which, it's not the Caribbean or anything like that. Because if you go to the Caribbean, we all know what baseball is, right? Baseball, right? But like, you got it in Australia, you got it in Japan, but not in literally that kind of part of the world. Do you think that because the Mets are not as a prevalent team right now as Phillies are, that's why you didn't see that popularity during that series?
I think Phillies fans do travel in numbers. I think the fact that the Phillies are doing well right now sort of emboldens Phillies fans to go to something like the London series. I think, Mets fans are probably a little disheartened right now after spending all that money and still being sub 500. So it may just be a function of how good the teams are right now. The Mets, I saw a certain amount of Yankees stuff there because it's Europe and you're just going to see that.
But you also have a lot of expats over there, though. You know what I mean? You got a lot of people that are American that live there right now.
Met some of them. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'd actually be very interested to see how the Major League Baseball would fare. I'd be very interested to go to like a game a Major League Baseball game in Korea or in Japan, because those are places that have their own baseball culture already. And so like, would there be a draw for a Japanese baseball fan to go to see a Major League Baseball game? And I'm sure there would, and I'm sure they would figure out ways to incorporate,
we've done that already, though.
We have. Oh yeah. They've played in Japan. They've played in Korea. They've played in Mexico City.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there are any other international cities where they have played Major League Baseball. But, England is an interesting one. I mean, England has a World Baseball Classic team. They've got, remember those classic uniforms that just had they were just like gray and like
with a very small font, Great Britain on it. I remember. Yeah, that was a joke, but
yeah. So, but as a sports experience, and I expect that this would be true, I think that our affinity for merchandise is deeper than it is in Europe, right? Like, you could get a t-shirt, you could get, whatever, a hat or a scarf or whatever, but like, there were no, like, the concessions, right? Like, there was no souvenir plastic cups, there was no ice cream helmets, there was there was one team store that had like an hour-long line to get into, right?
Belle is dying right now.
Yeah.
No, as I'm drinking out of my souvenir cup.
I have that very same Las Vegas Aviators cup, by the way.
Mhm.
So it's
With the Steiner's logo, I love it.
yeah. No, that is for sure a good one. So I was sort of hoping for that. Where
Yeah.
they did have it was actually at Trafalgar Square. They had the MLB takeover. They had souvenir cups there. So we were drinking beer at like 11 in the morning because A, our
why
bodies
not?
didn't know what time it was, and B, I wanted the souvenir cups.
And
So-
see, who cares?
So that was like I didn't come home with really any like plastic crap. And I actually posted a video. I think it was only on Twitter. I don't know if I posted it on Instagram. So Val, I'm not sure if you would have seen it, but I almost even tagged you in it because I was like, this is my best stadium food girl impersonation, where I stopped and I got ice cream and I talked to the woman who was serving the ice cream, and I did a whole thing on the ice cream helmets. Basically, I was just like, in the United States, when you go to a baseball game and you get ice cream, they serve them in these little helmets. And she's like, oh, she's like, and she was laughing. She was like, one time I went to some store or other and I got it in like a penguin cup. And I was like, a penguin cup sounds amazing. I want a penguin cup. And then we talked about flavors a little bit, and I got the strawberries and clotted cream, which it sounded like just the word clot, like, is not a word I associated with food. But it was delicious. Strawberries and clotted cream was delicious, and I posted a video of me doing my best stadium food girl impersonation.
Now you gotta post it on Instagram.
All right, I'll post it on Instagram. Yeah.
Let me ask you. So as far as obviously in London, soccer is life and everything, and you were talking about merchandising and all of that, but like, what was the quality? Because I've been with Major League Baseball lately. I've been having my issues with them in merchandise, right? I think we all have.
Yeah.
But like, what was the quality of merchandise for this event when it comes to like t-shirts, hats, and all of that?
So there wasn't a huge selection,
yeah,
which I found interesting, right? Like I got a gray t-shirt with the London Series logo on it, and they did have dad hats, and they called them dad hats. So I was pleased with that. But I didn't really look at that much except for the the t-shirt that I ended up buying. But the quality seemed fine. I didn't look at any of the authentic gear, though. I wasn't looking at jerseys or the actual
really
on-field hats or
anyways.
anything like that. What they did have at the takeover at Trafalgar Square that was fun was 47 brand had a stand set up, and if you were wearing a 47 brand hat, they had these like, they would personalize it with like these stencils that they were doing, so you could get it like almost like spray painted with some like sort of personalized message on it or something, but only if you were wearing a 47 brand hat. And
good for them.
Sorry, go ahead, Val.
I was just saying, easy for me. Now I know for next time. I have plenty.
So Amy was wearing a New Era hat, but I was wearing a 47 brand Phillies cap. But I didn't want them to mess with it. It was, it's already one of my favorite hats. I didn't want them to paint stencils on it. So I didn't do anything. I did not get it personalized.
Did you get any other hats though, or no? It was just a t-shirt.
I got myself a t-shirt. No, I don't have any. This is sort of an interesting thing here. Like, I don't have any hats from events. Like, I don't like,
but yeah, like, or even like getting a Phillies hat, like at the 47 stand with like, they didn't have like the patch or anything like that as far as like London Series was concerned.
They only had the game, the flat brim Pat Larson style hats with the patch on it. So yeah, no, that would have been pretty cool. Like to get the patch on the side of the hat or something like that. So, I got myself a t-shirt, and then I got my nephew. It was his birthday. I got a t-shirt and a London Series baseball. Oh, and I got myself a pennant, which is weird because it has a great big Mets jersey on it, right? Like, so I'm gonna hang something that has a Mets jersey on it in my house here. So
because there's nothing else. There's nothing else.
Exactly. The other thing that I wanted to say about the food, and this was because Val's here, and I was thinking.
I was about to ask.
Well, I apologize for jumping the gun on your question here, but
No, you're good.
you know, I don't think that anyone really goes to London for food. So if you combine like stadium food, which, you know, Val, you do such a good job of like finding the good stadium food out there, but stadium food is not always good, right? Like, so Val finds the cool, fun, interesting stuff. But, you know, sort of the baseline for stadium food is that it's not as good as like what you're going to get at like a restaurant or cooking at home or whatever. So combining like not very good stadium food with not very good British food, you sort of got exactly what you expected. The really funny thing was they had like two sides of the stadium, like outside the stadium. The gates opened 3 hours before the first pitch.
Wait,
And
what?
so, yeah. And it was a madhouse. Like by the time you got there 3 hours before first pitch, it was already a madhouse because like everyone was just, and there was so much stuff to just sort of like see and do as you're walking around that the game started sort of before you knew it. But I didn't know what to get, like, because I was just like, we were going to a pub to get fish and chips afterwards, right? Like, so I was, you know,
You didn't want to
was
overdo it.
I was going to have that British experience, but the food there was like, I don't know if you've ever seen Arrested Development, but there's a scene in Arrested Development where there's a neighborhood in Orange County called Little Britain, and it's like a British neighborhood in Orange County. And then in this British neighborhood, there is a restaurant that's something to do with, you know, America, and it's the British interpretation of what American food is in Orange County, California.
Mhm.
So it's a whole like, you know, Inception style circle here. But the joke is that British people think that American food is like, here's a basket of donuts while you decide what you want to eat, and here's a 64-ounce soda, and it felt a little bit like
Technically,
that,
not
right?
too far off.
Well,
they had these like, you know, like foot-long bratwurst or like 2 foot long bratwurst. Oh, the only thing you could get with the stadium with the London Series logo on it was the 28-pound, that money not weight, the beer bat. You could get the beer bat for 28 pounds, which is like $35. So you could get
that is
yeah,
so cool.
you could get that. I did not get it because I didn't think it would fit in my suitcase, and I didn't want to have to check a bag. So we did not get that. But I got a cheeseburger and French fries, and it came with like 6 French fries, and I was just like, well, that's probably for the best anyway. But the cheeseburger was like the cheese was like the cheese whiz that you put on a cheesesteak, right? Like it wasn't like a slice of cheese. It wasn't like cheddar or anything like that. And so like you pick it up and the cheese just like bloop, just right out the side. So there was a lot of great stuff about this experience. The food was not necessarily one of them, but I derailed myself by talking about the gates opening early. When you get there, outside the stadium is where most of the concessions and the, you know, the merchandise and all that was. And they had like a Philly side and a New York side.
Oh,
And so it was like this side has
Cheesesteak
like
and
the
pizza?
cheesesteak and I forget, it was like the Broad Street. It's like Broad Street chicken tenders or something like that. I mean, but it was like, it was all meant to be like, this side's very Philadelphia and this side is very New York, and this side, like this over here, we have the pizza and the Nathan's hot dogs, but they weren't actually Nathan's hot dogs. And
Do they even do hot dogs? I mean, this is so ignorant of me. Like, but they do hot dogs over there?
I guess so.
I hope.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, I'm
right,
sure
right.
I'm sure they do like different versions of sausages in buns.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there was not like, you couldn't get like a souvenir beer or a souvenir soda unless you bought the whole like the beer bat, and the food was just sort of like it reminded me of that scene from Arrested Development, right? Like it was just sort of like a bad impression, a bad British impression of what American stadium food was like.
I'm all for it. It doesn't offend me. I'm all for it.
Well, and it like I still ate it. Like I still got myself a cheeseburger, and then I was like, start like 6th inning. I'm like, maybe a cheesesteak or some chicken tenders. So, you know, I was still all about it.
The effort was there, is what you're saying.
So, I'm sorry, Val, say that again.
The effort was there.
The effort was there, and I saw a lot of people walking around with these like honest to God, they were like 2 foot long brats. It would look like it would have taken like 4 people to eat one of them. But the big thing in the game was like they treated it very much like an all-star game or a World Series. I imagine, I've never been to an all-star game, but I imagine this is what an all-star game would feel like, right? Like the ceremony around the game, the sort of pomp and circumstance was
Took the words right out of my mouth.
That was like as important as the game itself to many people, right? Like it was like pregame concert and the national anthem, and like they did so it was the Mets were the home team the first game and the Phillies were the home team the second game, and they did a ceremonial first double play instead of a ceremonial first pitch.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where Rob McElhaney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
co-owner of a little small soccer club.
Yeah, the Wrexham somethings. So they did a ground. So D from Always Sunny threw a ground ball to Rob McElhaney, who plays Mac on Always Sunny, and then he picked it up and he underhanded it to Chase Utley, who threw it over to Bryce Harper at first base. So
cool.
I didn't know that Chase Utley lives in London. He's like the Major League Baseball like ambassador to Great Britain.
He's an ambassador for London now.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Wow.
So that was cool. But I'll tell you, the funny thing about this is like, I flew over the Atlantic Ocean and went to a baseball game in London. And the weirdest thing about the whole experience to me was seeing the Philly Fanatic and Mr. and Mrs. Met on the field at the same time.
So cool.
I hope you guys enjoyed this part 1 of Let's Go to London episode with my good friend Paul Caputo. And again, guys, I'm very excited about this. My new co-host, Val, the Stadium Food Girl. I'm so excited about this. You guys don't understand how the That High Chronicles podcast is taking on a new shape and new trajectory. So stay tuned for next week, okay? Because part 2 is coming out. We are not done talking about London. We are not done talking about what it's like to watch baseball in another country other than here in the US. So until then, guys, keep grinding and always support your minor leagues. See ya.
This podcast is part of the Curved Brim Media Network. Here are some of the other members of Curved Brim Media.
Hi, this is Kelly Robinson, the Minor League Nerd. My YouTube channel explores the history of minor league baseball teams. More than just stats, we delve into team lineage, sharing stories from current franchises to obscure one-year wonders.
I'm Paul Caputo, and on the Baseball by Design podcast, I talk to minor league baseball teams, designers, and other super interesting people about what these minor league baseball logos mean, and I talk a little bit about ice cream helmets.
What's up, Bucketheads? I'm Anna DiTomaso, and each week on the Baseball Bucket List podcast, I speak with a different fan about their favorite baseball memories, what the game means to them, and what's left to check off on their baseball bucket list.
Hey everyone, it's Eric from the great state of Kansas.
This is Johnny from the New Orleans Baby Cakes Memorial Museum.
And we are the Earn Fun Average podcast,
where we talk to a variety of guests about their love of baseball and have fun doing it.
America, lower your standards.
Average is what we do best.
This is Patrick
and Corey
of BaseballMapper.com, and we have made an interactive map to help highlight all baseball teams from the majors down to collegiate summer leagues.
We want to bring you closer to baseball. So get on the site and find a team near you today.
Hey guys, this is Patrick Larson from the Minor League Baseball Hat History Series. And in every episode, I go through the history of minor league teams through my personal collection of hats. You can find me on Twitter at @PatLarson1. I hope you guys enjoy.
Learn more about Curved Brim Media at curvedbrimmedia.com.